mate. How are you?
Not bad, mate. Just got in from work. Quite tired, but I'm all right. Been strimming today, getting rid of all the fence lines and stuff. And it's been raining, which was just so much fun to do in the rain. It was a joy. I came home and I was basically green because I was just covered in grass and nettles and stuff. But it's fine. Got a cup of tea, so I'm happy. Everything's good now. What about you, mate? How you doing?
I'm all right. As you can see, viewers out there, today I have been to the barbers. I am now freshly trimmed on top and around the sides. So,
Right, dumb, isn't it?
well, exactly, yeah. I had to wait about an hour, but that's fine. I didn't mind waiting. I was like, I've waited this long, I need it done. So I've ticked off one of the big three things that people have been doing this week, it seems. I haven't been to the pub yet. I don't intend to go to the pub yet.
I don't intend to go to the pub either. No.
To me, seems very silly. I don't know why you'd want to go and have a beer in a beer garden when, I mean, I personally have a garden here and I can go to Morrison's, which is just up there, and
Get four for the price of one.
and get a whole pack of 10 for about £10, so I'd still try me going there. And the third thing that people have been doing this week, and I haven't done yet, is watching Hamilton on Disney+.
Oh, I've been meaning to do it every night, and I just keep going, I can't focus for that long tonight. I'm just like, nah. Maybe I'll do it.
Disney+.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I got it for the free period, and I just haven't cancelled it yet. But every time I go to cancel it, I'm like, oh, I forget or something, and I'm like, I need to because I don't really use it, to be honest. But
And in the meantime, I can see that you've become an emeritus professor this week with all those books behind you.
I have. Well, it's not that intelligent because I've got books, but then I've also got just films. I used to go when I was a kid to the Entertainment Exchange, that second-hand DVD and games shop thing.
Is that like another version of Blockbuster?
No, it's CEX, so it's like that one, and they used to do like DVDs for like £1 or something, and I'd go through and I'd be like, oh, I wonder what. So I just go in. There's a couple of films for £1, and I've built quite the section. But I've organised everything behind me now, so everything makes a lot more sense in this room, and I've finally got my own little space, which is moving home and all. But yeah, so
the classes have come. The classes have come. So on next week's episode, tune in for a reveal of Luke's new glasses. I should be able to see more than just what's in front of me and to the side as I'm looking at the camera now. I can see you, I just can't see you. That's that. Next week it'll be different though, as I glare down the camera.
The way you said that makes it sound like you've got eyes in the back of your head. So currently I can only see what's in front of me, but eventually I'll be able to see what's behind me as well.
Yeah, like, what's to say that these new glasses won't be mysterious and all-encompassing for me?
We shall soon find out, I'm sure.
Yeah. Anyway, we better start the pod.
Let's get it going.
So, hello everybody and welcome back to episode 5 of the Talking Theatre podcast with me, Luke.
And me, Tom.
And this week we have got a bit of a specialist episode in some ways. But before we get on to that, we just need to touch base on what has happened in the past week that's not Hamilton related or people going to the barbers and going to the pubs. So we have to touch base on this, Tom. I presume you've seen it, and I presume you're quite pleased, as I'm sure we all are. The government's £1.57 billion bailout of the arts sector more broadly.
About bloody time. I was going to say, if I hadn't seen this, I'd be a pretty bad student.
I know. It would be a terrible podcast if we've been talking about theatre for the past 4 episodes.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that's probably happened to the arts in however long is we've thought, nah, stop.
No, it's good. It's given us all a bit of time to sit and breathe, enjoy the moment of victory for now, and then eventually we'll see how they spend it and how it's distributed and so on. But for now, sigh of relief. Things are looking up. Let's just hope it goes well from here. That's sort of it's a good base to work off for that.
And hopefully the pantos will be on at Christmas. That's the hope anyway.
We can hope. We can hope. Just keep the money coming in. That's all, that's all we need right now. Keep the cash coming in, and everything will be better.
And hopefully, even if they can't put the pantomimes on, there will be the money now to make sure that the pantomime season won't be the be-all and end-all for these small and regional theatres that are so desperately short at the moment and are so vital to their communities. And
I really hope that the theatres that now do have a bit of support. I haven't looked into the sort of, again, distribution and stuff. I'm not too sure on, but I really hope that theatres won't put panto over human life. So if it is a risk, if there is a second wave, it is dangerous. I hope they don't, and they hope that the government realise that and go, if you need more, here's some more. I don't want them to sort of be, oh, we've got money, now we can do the panto, let's go, and then risk getting lots of people infected. But let's hope. For now, we've got our heads held high, we're happy, things are looking up, and for once we're positive about it all.
Exactly. So for anyone out there who was expecting us to do a whole podcast on this, the simple fact of the matter is, for now, we hope that there's nothing else to really talk about on that issue. We hope that the money is there. We hope it goes to the right people. Yeah. And we cannot criticise anybody or anything at the moment for putting that money in. The leading experts in the field have all come out and said that it's more than they could have ever even dreamt of. So, as we say, let's just hope that this is the end of this story for the Talking Theatre podcast. Obviously, if it's not, we will pick the story back up. So, anyway, we'll get on to the main reason for this episode, and probably the reason that you guys will come, because you've seen the title of this podcast, and you've probably seen a picture of me in it somewhere that looks a little bit stupid. So we'll get on to that now.
Okay, so this episode's going to be a bit of a personal one. So we're going to go into in the next two episodes a bit more about ourselves and how we've got into theatre, and how our passions have sort of grown and things we've had sort of experience along the way. And this week we're going to be looking into Luke's past and his story. So Luke, hi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, mate.
I think it's probably best that we go along in bit by bit, and I'll ask a few questions as we go along about it, because it's quite a sensitive and sort of personal topic for you, but it'd be nice to sort of have sort of conversations about it. But let's kick off with a nice easy one. As the title implies, let's just start with a basis, sort of a base level knowledge of what your past entails, and then we'll sort of go into the nitty gritty as we get further on. So I'm going to hand it over to you now, mate.
Yeah, so I'm sure that for a lot of people, this episode, in terms of the title, might have come as not necessarily a shock, but a surprise, because what I'm going to be talking about predominantly in this episode is something that a lot of people that we know don't really know. It's not something that I've ever really had to let on or wanted to let on, because it's not something that I want to, define me in the present. It might have, impacted me in the past, but I don't want it to define me in the present. So I think it's important to start by saying that. So, basically, I was born with a cleft palate. Now, for anyone that doesn't know what this is, it's basically a hole in the middle of your palate. And your palate is what you use for eating and swallowing and basically forming all of your words within your mouth. So you can have a cleft palate. You can also have a cleft lip. You can also then have a cleft lip and palate. The cleft lip and palate is the most well-known of the variants of clefts, although it is very, very rare that someone is only born with just a cleft palate. Now, a cleft palate is quite a difficult thing for a child to go through, because it's a lot of their development in terms of their speaking and their social interactions between people. And it should really be picked up in the first few months of childbirth, because it's unlike the cleft lip, you can't really pick it up on an ultrasound in early stages of pregnancy, because
it's not as obvious to sort of spot from afar.
Yeah, you can't see inside the mouth, but it should be something that is picked up on when the child is born and hopefully rectified within the first 12 months of that baby's life. And I don't want to spend this podcast criticising people and organisations and institutions for the way in which, my cleft was treated, because that's not what I want this podcast to be. And but I also do need to kind of spell out some of the facts, in the sense that mine was not fixed at birth, and it wasn't even discovered until I'd already had 2 operations. So when I was probably about 6 or 7, I think I had maybe 6, 7. Basically, I had tonsillitis a lot of times in 1 year. So I went to the doctors, obviously multiple times, to get antibiotics, as you do for tonsillitis. And the doctor said, let's get these tonsils out. So they got the tonsils out and the adenoids. And then things didn't really improve much. And I developed something called Singer's nodules, which, for any Adele fans out there, is what she got. Now, basically, you develop these when you're putting too much force on your vocal cords. But before anyone thinks that I got Singer's nodules because of my vocal cords, that's not necessarily the case. Because my palate wasn't fully formed, I couldn't actually formulate the words in my mouth properly. So every time I tried to formulate a word, I was putting too many forces on my voice box and my nodules in and around there. So it meant that the Singer's nodules developed as big lumps somewhere in the throat because of how much force and power I was putting into my speech, or trying to at least speak. So we pick up after that, in the sense that I then go and have just a standard procedure after that. So anyone that basically has it, and I'm sure Adele went through this as well, went to a speech therapist, and she basically said, this isn't still right, you should be making quite significant progress at this point. And well, I wasn't. There's no lower behold in it, I wasn't.
Yeah. So they'd been through every available option up until to say, oh, this is it, get rid of that, this is it, sort that, and then it still persisted as a problem.
Yeah. So it wasn't really until going to the speech therapist when she was like, there's something still not right, like, I want to video you. And this is before the days of iPads and everything like that, and, camera phones and whatever. So anyway, my mum was like, yeah, okay, if that's what you think, you're the expert at the end of the day, send, we'll video them. Because she wanted to send a video of me to her colleagues in Nottingham. So I come from the East Midlands, kind of East Coast, that kind of area. So Nottingham was like the big regional hub for this type of thing. So they sent a video across, and the speech therapist there got back to them and said, I think we need to have a look at him, and because there's something not quite right. The indications are that he could have a cleft that's been unresolved or not treated on, and we need to kind of have a look at this, send him across for something called an endoscopy. Now, these are really nice things. They you have a lovely little camera, very clever actually, really, when you think about it.
It's very clever, but it always makes me cringe whenever I hear about how it works.
I probably should have prefaced this at the start. There are a few gory bits for people. I'm not finding any photos. If you want the photos, go and search Google, that's what it's there for. But there are a few gory bits and pieces. So anyway, you put this camera down your nose, and you put it right into the back of your throat and then around your palate. And then they say, just talk, and, a bit like you're doing a mic test. 1, 2, 1, 2, all that stuff that you have to kind of do. And then, from what I can remember, because obviously, as I said, I was only very young at this point. I was probably 8. I wouldn't be any older than that, I don't think, because when I had my first palate repair, it would be the autumn of year 4. So what would have been then? 8, probably. So I was born in the January, so this would have been maybe year 3 that I started going to Nottingham on a frequent basis. So anyway, off I go to Nottingham, have my little thing done. You've got a cleft palate. Oh, right. Okay. What does that mean? Well, it means that you can't really talk very well. And I was like, oh, good. Right. I mean, obviously, I didn't say anything like that because I was 8, but, I can imagine what my parents thought. So anyway, there was
at that point, you probably also figured out.
Pardon?
You also figured out the effects of it having on you since you've been living for 8 years now. So you probably got.
Yeah, because
obviously that's what happened.
I'm not going to go into all the details, but when you kind of reflect upon my story of my cleft, there was a lot of signs at a very early age that something wasn't
stuff that
quite
should have
right.
been.
As I say, I don't want to use this pod and this episode to kind of rant fury at because it's not what it's for. I'm putting this story out. It's who I am, and I want to talk about it. So anyway, go and have my first palate repair. I think there were maybe 5, 6, 7 hours. Obviously, I wouldn't know how long it was. As I say, I was 8, and I was in theatre, so I didn't need to know really. So I went off to Queen's in Nottingham, had it done, and had to have a month off school.
Always a win.
Yeah, and this is the first bit of artsy-based work really, because obviously having a month off school, you lose out on a lot of things, especially when you're 8. Starting year 4. So I was like, well, what am I going to do to entertain myself? Jeremy Kyle's boring, and I'm not really into Holly and Phil in the mornings, and the Loose Women in the afternoons are, not that interesting. What can I do with my time? Like, I've got a month of basically doing nothing. Yeah. So I decided to do a project on Roald Dahl. Now, at the time, and me and Tom have spoken about this before, and he shares my passion for this author, not Roald Dahl, but Roald Dahl, brilliant. But I was getting used to reading the Jeremy Strong books, in particular the 100 Mile an Hour Donkey books.
Classic.
They are phenomenal. They are so good. 10
out of 10 would recommend to anyone listening, even if you're 70. Just listen, watch them, read them.
Yeah, 100%. Like, they are phenomenal books, and I think they're probably in my parents' attic somewhere at some point.
Yeah, mine are somewhere around. I love them.
Hopefully for the grandchildren to enjoy in many a year's time. So anyway, I was into reading and literature at that age, and I'd read James and the Giant Peach from what I've read. It's crazy how you remember stupid things from your child, isn't it? So anyway, I read James and the Giant Peach and was like, I want to keep reading these books. They're so good. Like, it's amazing. And I can remember reading Danny Champion of the World, the one where he shoots all the pheasants, I think. Is that the one?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Another great book. And that's a completely different podcast and a completely different series, but who needs an iPad when you've got Roald Dahl and Jeremy Strong? Anyway, I was busy doing this project and really enjoyed it. And I think the actual folder is still in my parents' loft, as like the Jeremy Strong book. I think I kept it because, it wasn't just a memory of me doing a project at that point. It had a lot more meaning than that attached to it.
Yeah.
So I did this project, and I really enjoyed it. And between, year 4 and kind of midway through year 6, really, I had to kind of go back to Nottingham for regular endoscopies to make sure that everything was fine and in order, and that nothing had kind of slipped or anything, because one of the real problems for me, being so old at the time, was that there was a significant risk that when I started to try and talk properly, all of the stitches would slip and would go back to where we started, and it's not a good idea. As you can probably imagine, that's exactly what happened, because I hadn't learnt to train my voice properly.
Yeah.
So I had to have it done again when I was in year 6. And it was a great time, obviously, because the timing of it was when the World Cup was on. So this is back in 2010. And there's a bit that I've kind of strategically missed out between this, and we'll get onto that in a second, I'm sure. But anyway, had this operation. The World Cup was on. One of my best friends who lives around the corner from me, who also had quite a lot of operations, more than me, when we were young, also had to have an operation at that point. So as you can imagine, it was great fun, and ironically, we can only meet each other in our gardens. What a year, 10 years later, that's exactly the same place that we all find ourselves within right now.
Isolated in your house, only allowed in your gardens, at socially distanced.
Yeah, making sure that germs and bacteria don't come near you.
Stay away, yeah.
What a world we have come to. Anyway.
So you spent like a month or two just sitting down, watching the football, having a whale of a time.
Yeah, but what was annoying was I could only really get the kind of like halfway through the tournament, because the first time I had a month off. Wow, a month. The second one, I only got to have 2 weeks off. I know, shame.
That's sad.
I know, right? But what was great about it was and I'm sure that it's probably the same with your school, Tom. When you leave school in primary school, you have this stupidly exciting leavers kind of show where you get a terrible theatre script sent through about Bob the caretaker or something like that, and him sweeping the fields or mowing the lawns. Like,
well, I played Oedipus in my one. We'll come back to that next week, but I had to play Oedipus in mine, which for like Lever's song, a bit weird.
So the casting, because once you've done your SATs, because we all know that SATs are the most important things you'll ever take in your life. They're not, but that's what you get told in school. So once we've done that, you have to keep. It's not like being in year 11 or being in year 13, where once you've done your exams, you leave. Like you go away and you do your own thing. You enjoy your summer. When you're obviously at primary school, you can't quite do that. So you go back for that term and you go, what do we do now other than learn how to balance an egg on a spoon and run 60 metres down a running track? What is there to do? So you do the summer play or musical, because they like a musical, even though none of you can sing, and that's the beauty in it. So we got cast before we went away, before I went to my operations, I should say, and that was my first experience of living the life of an actor, not getting a very good part, not being cast in the roles that you thought he was going to be, and I got a few parts from what I can remember. I can't remember who I got cast as, but that's part of the bar. We don't need to remember. But I got a few roles, so I had to learn my lines while I was off. And I think I went back to school maybe 1-2 days before the actual show itself. So I had no rehearsals, didn't know what on earth I was doing. I wouldn't even know how to stand on the stage. It was just, I've learnt my lines. Look, I've learnt my lines. I want to now say that I can say my lines. So anyway, said all my lines and, left primary school. And I suppose, I left out quite a big kind of thing in that kind of last 6 months of primary school. But I'm sure we'll get onto that in a second.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hell of a story, to be honest. The fact that it was noticed so late is just scary, but it's obviously now better because you never shut up. So I mean, it's obviously fine.
Well, without doing too cliche, I don't want this to be a cliche podcast. I don't want it to be sounding artsy and metaphorical and all that. But the people that do know me and know that this is what my past has been. I am quite a flamboyant. I am kind of an out there kind of
never would have guessed, mate.
Whatever.
Never would have guessed.
But I always say, it's because I'm making up for lost time. I was born without a voice in the majority of my life thus far. I mean, it'll be different next year when I have a birthday again. I couldn't properly talk, and I had to kind of learn to talk properly from being at the age of 11. So, I'm getting in all of my words now for the first 10 years when you
what I was going to ask, mate, was a sort of the follow-up question to all that is, obviously now you've been studying theatre, you want to go into theatre as a career and things, but in terms of you personally, and sort of the experiences you've been through, what impact did theatre have in making you who you are today in terms of your confidence, your drive, your passions, and so on? Like, how much has theatre really driven you to where you are now?
Well, I suppose my kind of journey, or whatever this is, to wherever we are now, stuck inside. Although, to be fair, looking at the weather, I would have been stuck inside today anyway. But that's fine.
Yeah, you didn't want to be outside today, trust me.
I mean, it was all right to go to the barbers, but after that, I was like, oh no. Anyway, so I suppose that my kind of route into theatre kind of started when I was 10. 10, I would say. So when I was in year 6, a local kind of drama kind of club / theatre academy / theatre school started doing after school drama clubs on I think it was a Tuesday night. I think it was a Tuesday night. And the first term, I was big into football at that time, huge football fan. Still am a football fan, just not very good at playing it. So when it was kind of like the autumn term, when it first started, I was like, I'm playing football a lot, and it's kind of nice in the evenings anyway, so I can go home and play football in the garden or go to football club after school. But I think, and I'm sure we'll probably touch on this probably next week as well with you, and I'm sure we had the same kind of experience. Boys didn't do drama. It wasn't,
No.
considered the right thing to be doing. And that's a real shame.
Not at school. It was very much yeah. I mean, even at uni, we were outnumbered massively. So it's bizarre, but yeah.
Yeah. So there was all that about like, well, boys don't do drama. Like, why do I want to do drama? Like drama, like as stereotypical as it sounds. But I suppose I kind of got past Christmas. The invite came out again. They sent the letter through and said, we're kind of looking for people to still kind of come if they want to and whatever. So I was like, well, it's dark now early, it's winter, the weather's crap, excuse my French, but the weather's crap when it's winter. I was like, let's give it a go. Let's give it a try.
Yeah.
So anyway, first class in, and I would like to preface this, I didn't know this at the time, it's only because of what's happened since this that I now know this. I was given a piece of text. It was Macbeth, apparently. Why you would give a 10-year-old Macbeth, I don't know, but
I was thinking weird stuff too. It's yeah.
And I kind of was like, well, I'll just kind of speak what it says on the page, really, It's kind of the way it is. And I can remember we had these stupid benches in the school hall that we used to kind of, all the teachers would sit on the side of assembly. Yeah. I mean, I felt really sorry for them because, it was hot, sit on the floor, but these benches were awful. So anyway, I kind of was given this piece of text and was put into kind of small groups, maybe 3, 4, whatever. I was like, let's get a bench out. And I was like, maybe you can stand there and I can stand there and we can say this at this point and,
So you had a sort of natural knack for it the second you got it?
Apparently so. And we kind of did more classes and the weeks kind of went by. And it got to the point there, the teacher, Tom, if you're listening, I don't think he will be, but who knows, maybe you are. Thank you for everything that you've done, it means a lot. Was having a chat with the teachers and, they kind of all knew the background that I was the kid that had a lot of time off school and, the reasons why. So he was kind of shaped on that. Anyway, one of my teachers came up to me one week and said, Luke, Tom wants to have a chat with your mother after school. Obviously, you can probably imagine what I thought about that. I was like, oh,
you instantly get it. You're like, oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, because usually when you hear a teacher say, can you bring your mum in? You think, what on earth have I done? I was like, I'm a good child. I haven't done anything wrong, please. I haven't.
Yeah. But it was good.
It was good in this instance. So anyway, in comes mum. He's like, he's really good. Oh, that's good,
Got a hobby.
Knowing too much. Oh, when kids are that young, parents like to think that their students are doing all right in things and, succeeding and kind of taking things under their skin and kind of just getting on with it and enjoying it.
Yeah.
It was like, no, I don't think you quite understand. Oh, why? He's really good.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. And he was like, I don't think, that you really know what I mean by that. I see 1 in 100 kids in this area. Man, and I live in the middle of nowhere. So that's quite a wide radius that are this good. And you think, nah, that's not true. She was like, I want to take him. I think there's something there that I want to, tap into.
So from that moment on, you were sort of drawn towards the theatre world and brought in.
Yeah, basically.
So how did that affect you in terms of yourself, obviously coming from these operations and in terms of your voice and speaking and so on? How did the theatre drive that?
Yeah, so I suppose really that kind of period of saying, I want him to kind of come and do this thing. Well, it's, probably one of the most pivotal points of my life because I started properly when I was in year 7. I did a junior musical theatre class on a Monday night for an hour, and I was like, I don't think this. I was like, this isn't quite what I was doing before. Like, there's not much fun in this. Like, look at them all; they're so good and whatever. They're dancing and they're singing, and the first thing we got given was, I just can't wait to be king from The Lion King. What?
Classic.
Love it. So anyway, I had a few classes. Like, I really don't think this is for me, but what was so important was the fact that I had to just keep persevering with it and be told just to keep persevering, because even if, you aren't going to be an actor, you're not going to do this. Like, I think on reflection, it was the best thing I could ever have made, because it taught me to talk, in essence, because even though, I'm not a trained actor, I don't want to be a trained actor, or whatever, it taught me how to properly, pronounce words and think about my breath and think about how I can, pronunciate and everything like that. And I think a big part of that was learning to sing. Now, I'm not going to confess that I'm the greatest singer in the world, because I'm not. I don't think I'm the worst, but I'm certainly nowhere near the best. But given the circumstances, do I care? No, I don't care. So I think that learning to do that was really, really important, because I never really had to use my diaphragm, because I couldn't really talk. So the whole kind of like breath in, breath out, like I hadn't had to do that or known how to do that. But what I kind of learned quite quickly was how important that was for me to actually talk. So I can remember having these lessons where I would lie on the floor and I have a Malteser and I have to sit there and blow the Malteser up in the air to kind of train my diaphragm. And I had to go and kind of have all these classes to kind of teach me how to properly talk. So I suppose that not only did it bring me the sense of being able to talk, it brought me confidence. I was around people that understood where I'd kind of come from, and the kind of hardships that I kind of had to endure, I suppose, and I wasn't necessarily, I never felt that I was treated as a kind of different or an outsider. Yes, I had a bit of a different story to everyone else that was in my classes and stuff, but I wasn't ever, I was just one of the theatre kids. And
you were just treated the same, absolutely normal.
Yeah, and I think that that's been so beneficial for me, because I don't want this to just be like, it taught me to talk. It did teach me to talk, of course it did. But it gave me so much more. It gave me confidence. It gave me the ability to think about myself in terms of, in a positive way, that, yes, I might sound a little bit different, but that didn't matter. It gave me, I think, my sense of uniqueness and the ability to think that actually that's a good thing, Like standing out from the crowd, I always thought was always a bad thing at primary school. Because, there was something that was different about me to all the other kids, whether that was me sounding different or the fact that, I spent a lot of time not really at school, like I had this thing that was different about me. But the theatre kind of gave me that route into thinking, you are your own person, your own voice, you might not think that now. And we don't want you to think that now, because it's about growing, it's about developing, it's about learning. But I think what was so important was when you kind of think back and think, this is the time that you are going to learn in the future how beneficial this can be to your life.
I think, in terms of what I've only known you for like 3 years now, is it? Obviously, I didn't know you before uni. And uni is when I think you really came into your own, because you could see, even just from the 3 years I've known you, your confidence shot up. And it's been as in terms of the year itself, as in the academic year that we were part of, you are an inspiration in terms of the drive and passion you got. And I didn't know a lot of the story you said until we had a little chat yesterday about it all. But it's really sort of inspiring to hear someone drive and passion just come from something so personal. So I just want to say thank you for sharing it. I think this podcast has been a really good one to sort of see into your perspective of everything. And I just wanted to say cheers for sort of opening up, and it's been really nice to hear.
I'm going to respond to that. I mean, thank you. Like that, I never consider myself an inspiration. I don't want to think of myself as an inspiration. I just want to think of myself, as someone that can share their story and, just get it out there to people. Like, you kind of do, you do with this information what you wish, really, And I suppose that when I kind of got to uni, like, I kind of learned because of the theatre that it didn't matter. Like, I didn't need to tell people. Like, people didn't need to know, I just wanted people to judge me on who I was as a person and the kind of work that I wanted to create. And I think what's also important to say is that when I took a really big step, and this isn't a shameless plug, and I'm not all for a shameless plug, and I don't care if you watch my YouTube channel or not. I don't really care. As long as you keep watching listening to these podcasts, that's all I really care.
These are the important ones. These are the important ones.
These are really. Subscribe down below, like, comment, do all that. No, but I kind of started that to document my journey through uni. But what that was actually really was to put myself on front of a camera, like I'm doing now, as I stare right at you, was a massive step, because it's not because of my appearance, but because of the way I sound, like there was, for the majority of my, last 10 years, I'd have to spend weeks sometimes on voice rest, because I could do a show and then know that I've then got to spend the next week on voice rest. So I spent a lot of time whispering, so I'm going to get closer to the camera that's recording me so you can hear me. But that's what I had to do, because I had to make sure that I maintained my longevity of my voice. I had to kind of learn how to use my voice in the right way and at the right times, but also protect my voice for future. But putting myself on camera and doing things like that was a massive step in that kind of, I don't think, I wouldn't necessarily call it anxiety, but, it was difficult to kind of hear yourself back, because we all think we sound terrible on camera when we record ourselves, because it's the way the human ear is. But you can still hear quite a substantial difference in my voice to everybody else's. But I kind of go over that now. Like, I don't care.
Yeah,
like,
it's not something that matters. We don't.
No.
It's not something that really draws the attention. And sort of explaining all the history and backstory behind it is, you can tell just from the way you're talking how important it is to you. That you're like, I don't want to be judged on this. This is my past. It's part of who I am, but this is what I am now because of that. Look at this. And you can hear what you're saying now. And honestly, it's not. I don't want to say it's not important, because obviously it's important. But in terms of the theatre that you want to make and the attitudes you have now, it's just part of who you are, and you just got to swing with the punches on that.
The
but you've
past
done
is
that
in the past, Yes, it's kind of shaped my present, but it shaped it, I think, in a good way, because I was, without it sounding cliche and terribly artsy, I was born without a voice, but the theatre gave me a voice, and it's now my job.
I was waiting for you to say that. I was waiting for that line.
And it's now my job to kind of use that, and that doesn't necessarily mean by me, just like being talking on this podcast is one way of using that voice, just to kind of start the conversation. But it's also through, the kind of art I want to create and the kind of aspirations that I have for myself and, my career and whatever moving forward. But I don't want that to dictate what I do in my future, Yes, I kind of want to make sure, that if I got a platform of some sort, that I kind of use it to kind of make sure that, people know about this thing, which is important to me, because I don't want any of the kind of young children to kind of go through that experience. But I've been through it now, so there's nothing I can do about it. All I can do about it is try and get other people talking about clefts and whatever. And, it's something I do want to kind of do in my future. And I thought, it's
good place to start, man. Well, may I be the first in saying thank you very much for sharing. It's been a very interesting episode.
Everyone out there.
Bit of a diversion from theatre, but I think it's an important one. So thank you very much, mate. And I think we've gone a bit over time, but oh well.
Episode 5, so
no one's setting the rules. We can do what we want.
Exactly.
But yeah, so thank you very much, mate.
Okay, so thank you for listening to episode 5 of the Talking Theatre podcast. If you haven't listened to any of the other podcasts at this point, then remember to subscribe to our channel, drop a like on this podcast / video because we're on YouTube and all that, and go back and kind of look at the things that we've been discussing so far. And
if you haven't seen our other episodes, what are you playing at? Like,
exactly.
To be honest, what's going
We've
on?
had 5 episodes now, so I mean, if you are new around here, thank you for being here in this virtual sphere that we're in. Go and watch the other ones as well. It's been really good as well. So yeah, and next week we'll be back with episode 6 when we kind of might be interviewing Tom instead of being.
I was going to say that next week's going to be very different.
But I think that that's important because what's important about life in general is that we all have different experiences, we all have different routes into different things, and we all want to be judged on the present. I think what we're doing now to kind of be who we are, and it's kind of.
I'll try and dig up some old anecdotes from old drama stories I've got, but I'll save those for next week. But until then, I suppose it's bye bye from us. So adios,
and we will see you guys next week. Bye bye.